previous video, I asked you to sketch out a triangle or two, if you can, that meets the following criteria. So one length is 7 centimeters, and that length is opposite a 42-degree angle, and another length is 8 centimeters. So it actually describes two possibilities. So here's a little diagram that I've done here. You could, for example, maybe you drew a triangle like this, and you can see there's a 7 centimeter length. You may have also decided that 7 centimeter length could go that way. So that leaves us with this red triangle here. And that also meets the criteria that we've looked at. So when we're looking at congruent triangles, if you're given a side, and an angle, what you actually have is two potential triangles that was meant to be animated that did not work. I'm not going to re-record this. I've recorded this about 3 times already. So your two triangles are here. So the two sides the same and the angle not between them does not necessarily prove that the triangles are congruent because of the ambiguous case. This will come up in advanced trigonometry when you get to year 11, but you're probably not going to come across this in terms of needing to explain it until year 11 when we get back to school. So this is what you should be copying into your books. All you need to do is sketch the triangles as they are here. And I'm going to read these out first, and then you can pause the video and copy. I have also put this in Google Classroom, but even if you have a printer, it's useful just to sketch this out so you kind of embed it into your memory. So you can say that two triangles are congruent if they have a side, angle, side which match. So I'm going to use some notation here. So SAS is side, angle, side. So two sides and an angle in between. We can also say that two triangles are congruent if they have an angle, and a side. So imagine tracing your finger along with my mouse pointer. You can see there's an angle there, and then there's a side. Or in this case, there's an angle, side. Some textbooks and revision guides call it angle, side, angle. Technically, it's the same thing. And you have to remember, if you have two angles, essentially you have the third angle too, because you just do 180 minus those two angles. So then you two angles on the side, or angle, side, angle, it's the same thing. I will typically use ASA, I think, in my slides. I'll have to check on the next video. And then for C, you can also say that if all the sides match, then the triangle is the same. This was the first example that we did. And then finally, RHS represents when you have a right angle triangle. H is the hypotenuse, and S is any of the other two sides. If they match, then you have a congruent triangle. Now, once you've copied this into your books, I'm going to show you an example. This is what I put as a PDF, so you can read that later on in your once you're revising this. So the question is, if the indicated things are equal to another triangle, identify if they are sufficient to prove congruence. So for example here, if you have side, 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 is that enough to show that the triangle is congruent? Yes. So that works. If you have three angles, is it enough to prove that they are congruent? No, it's not, because the triangle can be a different size. It can be similar, but not always congruent. If you have an angle, a length, and an angle, can we show that this is similar? So in a question like this, you have two angles and a side. It doesn't look like it matches up with anything. However, just like before, if we have two angles here, well, we technically have a third angle too, which we can work out. And then that will give us angle, side. An angle, side is the second option. So that should give us an answer. Question 4, what happens if you have an angle, and a side? Well, that works as well. Again, we can just work out the third angle if we need to. Now, on the bottom here, if we have side, angle, in this case, we don't really have enough information here to prove it's congruent. So if you're given two triangles and you're told two sides and an angle match in this format, it doesn't mean that they're the same. Here we have side, angle, side. Yes, that's just SAS. Here we have a right angle triangle. We have the hypotenuse and we have the side. So RHS is going to work. We have a right angle triangle again. We don't have the hypotenuse, so it's not going to be RHS. What else can we work out? Well, the thing is we can work out that missing angle because we have two angles here. So essentially this is the same as that question there. So it's going to be angle, angle, side. Now, this needs to be copied. Well, you have copied this into your book. So just going to do a couple of practice questions with some actual triangles here. So are these triangles congruent? Well, look at the lengths. We can see 3.5, 6, and 4, 3.5, 6, and 4. So if you were to flip the triangle over without changing the side of it, the side lengths or angles, just flipping it or rotating it, you would end up with a congruent triangle. And the proof would be all three sides are the same. So S, S, S. Here's another example here. The question is, are these triangles congruent? Well, we have side, angle, side. So side, angle, side is one of the proofs. Now we'd actually have to check each of the lengths and see if they do match up. So 3.5, 78, 4, 3.5, 78, 4. Yes, it's been rotated and flipped, but SAS does prove that this is a congruent triangle, which means it's exactly the same triangle. Another question here. This time we have angle, side, angle. We have angle, side, angle. We can actually work out the missing angle up there, can't we? So that missing angle there is going to be 180, take away 78 and 47. So that then becomes angle, angle, side, or angle, side, angle. Now that's the same thing. That's the same as angle, angle, side. And then finally here, we have a right angle triangle. We have the hypotenuse and another length. And here again, we have a hypotenuse and another length. Yes, it's been flipped over, but we can say that they are congruent with each other. So there is an exercise here. Pause the video, have a go. This is not going to be given to you in a PDF, so just have a go here. I'm going to show you the answers in 2 seconds, so pause it if you haven't done it. Okay, here are the answers. Now, what I want you to do here is just pick out any 3 questions. It should take you about 2 or 3 minutes to do the whole thing. So you should be able to do 2 or 3 questions in 2 or 3 minutes. And what I want you to do is figure out which of the 2, whether the triangles are congruent, and explain how you know what they are congruent or not. So pause the video here. Okay, now I'm going to show you the answers. Here are the answers. So have a go at just marking your work. I'm not going to give you this as a worksheet, but you can see the answers given in full sentences. So when you do get to the worksheet, which is coming up, you should not just be putting SSS or SAS or AAS as your answer. You just have to make it into a full sentence. So instead of SSS, you can say the triangle has the 3 sides on one triangle are the same as 3 sides on the other triangle. So for example, question E is just a fancy way of saying SSS. And that's how you're expected to answer these questions in an exam. But you can use SSS and AAS and things like that to memorize and remember. So here are the worksheets you are meant to be doing. This is just part 1 of this week's lessons. This is maybe 40% of the work that you're going to be set this week, maybe 50%. So the first worksheet, you are going to have a bunch of triangles just like this. And you are then going to say whether you can prove they're congruent or not. So in this case, I have the question and the answer given. So you can say, in this case, you can prove they're congruent because RHS applies. So it's a right angle triangle, we have the hypotenuse and we have a side. The second worksheet, pick out 4 questions here to do. I think we've just done that in the previous slide. So yeah, so you actually don't need to do that. I've changed my mind on that. What you should be doing though is the final worksheet. So exercise 34, the answers are given. Those are actually exam style questions. So for what I expect you to do now is 10 minutes on worksheet 1, and then a maximum of 20 minutes on worksheet 2. There are 6 questions to do there with the answers provided, so you should mark your work in each case. I will see you guys in the next video. Yeah, smash that like button, whoever you are, the one person that does that. Well, thank you so much.